so quiet. That story is different in every market. In New Hampshire, those rednecks laughed at absolutely everyone.
Well, okay, since you used the redneck word, we have to bring this question up. And your Asheville fans really want to know where you stand on this most divisive issue today. Vampires or werewolves? Which side are you on and why?
This is such a cop-out, but I'm a zombie man myself.
That wasn't a cop-out, as you can tell, zombies are very popular. Well, let's talk a little bit about tell-all. Or rather, before we talk about tell-all, I'd like to know if someone came to you after reading tell-all and said, I just read your new novel and how would you fill in that blank? What would be the response to tell-all that would please you the most?
And it didn't suck, or it helped me pass a really boring airplane flight with a crying baby, and I wasn't aware of any of that because the book was so engrossing. That's the greatest thing a book can do.
And getting back to Knock Knock, and also talking about tell-all, does all of your outrage and your outrageousness make it to the final product, to the final proof copy, or are you still censored by your editors or whatever?
You know, I think pretty much all of the, outrage or basically rage or expression makes it to the finished thing. And that's entirely the point. Every once in a while, I'll see something like recently I saw a documentary, the biopic that was made about Buddy Holly back in the late 70s. And seeing it, and you look at Buddy Holly, and he's so enormously expressed when he's performing. And he looks like such a frigging idiot that it inspires me. And I thought, I've got to write something that makes me look dreadful, but is a really full, huge form of self-expression that doesn't really hold back anything. And when I took that story to workshop, I meet with friends every Thursday night. We've been meeting for 20 years, me and these other writers, and I presented it. And a lot of them were very upset by it. And one of my oldest friends in particular said, you cannot put in that dog shit joke. She said, that's just beyond the pale. And I said, that's exactly why I have to put it in. Because there has to be something that that hurts me when I say it. There has to be some part of that story that really is painful for me to say it. Or otherwise, I am a zombie up there just saying the same thing over and over. There's got to be some part that I dread saying, but I force myself to say that part of the story.
When you first started out writing, was there more of a censor or somebody judging your work that you had to try to compete against, like run around them, or was it always within yourself that how can I dig down deep and come up with this instinct to appall myself and to everyone else?
I don't think of it necessarily as appalling myself. I think of it as challenging myself to present something that's not just a kind of thing that's done for the market. Because originally I tried to write exactly like Stephen King. And I tried to write Stephen King books, and they just sounded so third person and so flat that there really wasn't a sense of danger in them. I didn't feel threatened by the act of doing them or presenting them. There wasn't some sense of risk in them. And so that's when I finally gave it up, because I thought, the clock is running. and this is my life, and I want to present things that are a constant risk.
You, since Knock Knock had an element of the chemotherapy and cancer, and I've also read that you were influenced by Tom Jones, the short story writer, is that correct? Were you thinking about his short story, I Want to Live, in any capacity when you were writing this?
No, I wasn't thinking about, I remember that story. That was an incredible story. It was a really upsetting, miserable story, but it was such a strong story. It's a Tom Jones story from the collection Pugilist at Rest, about a woman